In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of how I draw the designs that I'm laser cutting for these layered paperworks. And I'm also going to be talking about how I clean up stray notes afterwards. There seems to have been some changes in Creative Cloud since the past couple years, so maybe in a previous video I've discussed this, but there's some other tricks and tips and sort of like little stumbling blocks that occur when you're trying to really clean up this artwork. So I want to walk you through that challenge as well as show you from start to finish how I draw these designs. So as you can see in this is a layered paperwork. All of these sort of vines or vegetation or sort of abstract shapes, as well as the lacework of this dragonfly and the background of the dragonfly, are drawn in Illustrator and then laser cut, and then I hand cut other elements and apply all the pigment and do that by hand without the laser. So it's sort of a combination of two different things. So I have a series of these bugs that are designed for paper cut, which I'll show you here, and you can see a link to that file in the blog post. But I have a couple different ones. So I have the dragonfly, the butterfly, a beetle, a mantis, a lunar moth, and a bee. And then I want to add one more. So I want to do a grasshopper. And these are designed to kind of look the way that you would pin bugs for display. So they have their wings spread out and they're viewed from right above. So let's go right into Illustrator, and I'm going to start from the very beginning. So I'm going to create a new file. I always create mine as 12 by 20 inches because that's sort of the cut range or sort of the full artboard size that you would see in the Glowforge, and that's the laser I'm using. This may not be as important to you. That's the size. I'm not really worried about raster effects or any of that. So just simple 20 by 12, create the new file. And then I am going to go get my reference image that I'm going to use to get all my proportions right. And that's right here. And I'm going to just drag it in. And it's going to place itself on the artboard. And you can see this is very high resolution. And I'm sure there's some people that are going to question what I'm going to do here, but we're going to kind of trace it. So although I use the tracing to kind of get my symmetries right, it's not that I'm fully following this design with a perfect tracing. You'd be amazed. Tracing is a very valid and important part of many art forms. So I have my grasshopper in here. He's about the size I want him to be. And that's important because when I'm creating these, I want them all to be a similar size so that the thickness of the line work is similar across the designs. So I pulled over this lunar moth outline so that I can make sure that this is going to have similar proportions to the other designs. Now I'm going to go into my layers panel, which is what I opened over here. There's your layers. Let's just zoom in here. If you do not see your layers, you can go to Window and you can find your layers right there and it'll pop up for you. I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to double click on this layer right here, and I'm going to tell it to become a template and to dim images 50%. That will lock the layer so that I don't accidentally move this, grab this, or mess with anything on this layer. And then I'm going to draw on the layer above it. And then I can later delete the tracing guide here. So the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brush. So I'm going to click my paintbrush. I'm going to come up to this brush definition, and I'm going to create a new brush. It's going to be a calligraphic brush. You've probably seen me do this before if you've seen any of my previous videos because I make the exact same brush and use the same one every time. I'm going to set it to size 3-point, pressure, and 3-point, which is, this allows you to have a full variation from thick to thin within the 3 points of your brush. You can also, once you've made that, you can change the stroke and it will make this thicker as well. That's just the base brush that I always use. It's what I like. It's what I'm used to. There's a million different ways you can create your brush, but this is what I like. So I got my calligraphic brush. You can see I'm using a Wacom tablet, and it allows me to create thicks and thins and kind of create some really nice variation with our bug here. So I'm going to start at the top, and I may speed this up a little bit, but I'm just going to draw everything kind of as I see it, abstracting where I choose, simplifying where I want, keeping complex shapes where I choose. And while I'm doing that, I'll probably speed by a little bit just so you don't have to listen to me do all of that. But there's a couple things I want to mention. You could also do this with the blob brush tool, because the blob brush tool will also allow you to have pressure. And when you work with it, you can see it will connect itself automatically. For a lot of people, this will be much easier. I tend to use the paintbrush tool when you do that. Oh, well, I got some weird stroke here. I don't know where that happened. Let's go back to our calligraphic brush. The lines stay independent. And so this does allow you to individually adjust things afterwards. So those are the two main differences between the brush types. And that's up to you what you prefer to use. If you're very confident in your mark making and you just want it all to be connected into one shape at the end, use the blob brush. If you think you may want to come back in and maybe even smooth some areas or like adjust things later, then use the regular brush tool. For the purpose of this, I'm going to use the regular brush tool because I think that will actually create more stray nodes, and thus we'll have more to look at when we get to the adjustment part. And so let's get started. Okay, so now the drawing is done. If you want to see that in real time, it took about maybe 10 minutes. So you can speed up that part if you need to. And that should be able, that should give you an idea of about how long it took. You can kind of watch me do the drawing in real time. I don't think you necessarily need that. So up to you. But you can see, so now I have my artwork done. It is all individual line segments, so I just kind of fill in wherever I need to. And now I'll go back and give it like a cursory look, and I'm looking for any little holes because I want to just kind of draw over top of those and fill those in. The fewer little tiny baby holes we have, or little pinholes in the drawing, the better. I'm also going to thicken any areas that I think are going to be really delicate when they're cut, or I don't like the transition from line to line. And so that's some of my thought process. Is also, as I'm drawing, I'm trying to build a little bit of structure to hold the design together. I don't want any like dots or like random little offshoots that are going to get broken off when it cuts. These are very specifically designed for paper cutting. So you could cut these out of acrylic, but you're going to need to make sure they're scaled up enough that they don't like catch on fire, because there's a lot of detail in it. So keeping in mind that the actual complexity of the design is relevant to what material you can cut it out of is really important. So I think I'm pretty good with that. I don't see a lot of pinholes. Everything's looking pretty good. So once I have done a first cross check on that, I'm going to turn off my template layer. I can actually delete this. I know I don't need this anymore. And then I have not even saved this document yet, so let's save it. I'm going to save it as a PDF because PDFs do read directly into the Glowforge interface, and I just like working with PDF. I don't know why all my menus are popping up all of a sudden. Get out of here. Okay. I hate these little tooltips. I don't need this. Get out of the way. Okay. So now I have my design, and the first thing I'm going to do is grab all of it. Holding Option, I'm going to drag, and off the artboard, I'm going to preserve the original. So if I completely botch this, I can always come back to my original design. You can also put that on its own layer or something like that and just lock and hide the layer. Now I'm going to re-highlight everything. And of course, I drew in blue just so I could see it against the background. I don't usually draw in black, but the color is not relevant. I'm going to go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. And what that's going to do is turn all my strokes into those blobbed shapes. These are no longer strokes. They are now solid shapes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Pathfinder panel. And if you can't see that, remember, you can go to Window and you can find your Pathfinder there. And I'm going to merge all of this. So I'm going to hit Unite. And if you watch, all of those little areas disappeared. It's all now one shape. You may notice that right off the bat, I missed a little pinhole area. I'm going to use my white arrow, which is my direct selection tool. And because this item is inside a larger shape, it's not on an edge, I can just click on it and just hit delete until all those nodes are gone. So if I select all again, I then will once again make another cursory walkthrough, and I'm looking for points where they don't need to be. So you can see that there are two little pinholes here. I'm going to quickly delete those. And this may not be super necessary when you see the next steps, but I'm looking for pinholes. I'm grabbing them. Okay, it looks like there's some other little hidden anchors here. So there might be some little hidden stray points. And we're going to solve all of that today. So I don't see any more pinholes in the knees. I don't really see any. Hopefully I'm not missing an obvious one that everyone else in this video can spot except for me. And that's the first step. So now this looks good to go. Like it's finished. If I hit select all, I'm not seeing a bunch of points off into, the white space. If you do see them out here, just grab those and delete those. But now I have to go to the next step of creating the background shape. So if we go back and look at my other designs, you can see I have these simplified solid shapes, and that is so that we can cut those out of a contrasting paper and layer it behind this artwork. I don't want all of the exact same details because I was using a much thicker paper that was not going to allow me to cut some of these details. This was just like Recollections cardstock from Michaels, like an acid-free cardstock. This is a thicker paper. And then because some of these wouldn't show anyway, it just makes it easier for a lineup if I don't have every little detail on it. So we're going to look at that when we do our next steps. One other thing I want to draw your attention to is the actual outline is different than the inner parts of the cut. I separate those because when you're laser cutting this, I like to laser cut the inner pieces first because they tend to blow away. and then cut the outline last. By making it a different step, I can make sure that that gets cut second and that it doesn't get halfway through the cut the outline, the fan blow it out of alignment, and then it just ruined the cut. So I always want to cut the complex inner shapes first so that they're anchored by the sheet of paper that it's being cut from, and then move on to the next step. So let's actually start making that happen. We got to make our big inner shape, and we got to separate our outline from our inner pieces. I'm going to take my rectangle tool and pick a new color. It does not matter what the color is. I just want to make it something that y'all can see. So we're going to use pink. And I'm going to draw a rectangle larger than my shape. I'm then going to right mouse click on it. Come on, click, click. All right, maybe it's not going to want to let me do it. Hold on, let me use my trackpad. And then I should be able to grab it, right mouse click on it, and send it to back. So I want to go to arrange, send to back, and it is now behind the line art. I'm going to grab both of these items, come back to my Pathfinder, which is still open, and I'm going to hit divide. And what that's going to do is it's going to take my upper shape, and anywhere it sort of crosses over the other shape or creates a new compound open area, it's going to slice that up. So it's basically treating this like a very complex cookie cutter cutting through the dough, the pink rectangle. I'm going to click it. It looks like nothing happened. A lot of stuff did happen. So instead, I'm now going to use my white arrow, which this is my direct selection tool. It allows me to select things that are part of a group. And I'm going to select that outer piece and I'm going to delete it. And you can now see that it's sliced like a cookie cutter, all these little pink sections. And I have that. So now I can actually come in here. And what I forgot to do is I'm double clicking to enter the group and I'm grabbing this blue section, which is my outline, and I'm copying it and pasting it because I want one that's the outline. And then this I'm going to fuse together by grabbing it all again, uniting it, and now I have my background shape. So I have my background shape and I have my main shape here. I'm going to turn that back to a bubblegum pink so we can see the difference. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser tool, and because this is the fastest, easiest part, and I'm going to erase any areas where I'm not worried about keeping the body. So like I don't need these arms or these antennas or these bottoms of these legs because this show through area, the holes, are the only areas you're going to see this. So I'm just going to do a really quick slicing wherever I know. And you can drag this on top if you need to be able to see where you need to cut, but I can look over at it and get the idea. I'm going to cut and then cut here. Let's see, I don't need the long parts of the arm, so let's cut there. Cut there. Zoom in, and we're going to cut our antennas. Sorry, everything's like sliding all over the place here. And then we're going to cut our antennas off. And then I'm going to smooth that out a little bit. Take my direct selection tool again, and I'm going to just grab and delete these extra pieces that I do not need. And if you hit delete once, it won't delete it. Sometimes you got to delete it a couple times because it tries to just delete the single point that you touched. So just make sure you clear those. Perfect. And then just to check that there's no stray areas, I'm going to highlight over top. I don't see any stray points anywhere, though there may be something because I see a little bit of a gap here. One way we can check, and this is the first way we're going to eliminate stray points, is go to View, Outline. And you can see, if I hit select all, there were some invisible points here, and that's important. So we're going to grab those, and let's see where this one was, and grab this one, and delete those. So the outline view is one of your first ways to spot stray nodes or stray points. And if we come back over here, we can see I couldn't see these on the previous walkthrough, the little look through, but now I can see them because we're not looking at any colors. We're only looking at the outline of points and shapes. So I'm going to delete those. Oh, here's a couple more. It's definitely much easier to see them now. And some of them are really small. And honestly, I swear to you, sometimes I'm like looking and it's actually a speck of dirt on my monitor. So you might need to kind of scroll around or sort of double check because I think I see one there, but is that dirt? Oh, that's dirt on my monitor. Okay. So clean your monitor if that's interfering with your ability to do this. I see everything. Everything looks really good. What I might want to do now though is this has so many points. I'm always worried about any like little jagged places that the laser has to slow down to cut. Now, because there's going to be a nice outline going on top of this, I don't mind if the edges just kind of get moved a little bit to make them smoother and simpler. I'm going to go to Object, Path, Simplify or Smooth. Let's do Smooth and let's do it to 1% and we'll see what that does. So 1% already smooths it a significant amount. That's all we want to do there. And we do the same with Simplify. So Simplify will reduce the amount of points we have. I think in this case, Smooth was sufficient. If I want to get rid of this jagged edge, I can come up here. I can use my Delete Anchor Point tool, which if you click and hold is hidden under your pen tool. And I can delete an anchor point. Now, you may be tempted to just take your direct selection tool like we were doing for the inner shapes and hit delete. But you don't want to do that because that's going to break your shape into an open shape and you're going to get errors when you cut it. You actually want to delete the anchor point tool instead so that it retains its congruent line all the way around. So that's actually pretty important stuff. So there's a difference. You can only delete them if they're independent little shapes. If you want to remove them otherwise, use your remove anchor point tool or your delete anchor point tool to clean that up. So that looks pretty clean to me. If I highlight over it, I'm not seeing the same stray points. You can see now when I select it, the bounding box is hitting all 4 edges. Now let's take a look at this. So this one's actually pretty complicated. Let's take a look at it. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to simplify it a little bit just because there's so many points. I'm going to go to Object, Path. I can find it again. My brain is not finding it. Where are you? There we go, Path. And I'm going to go to, oh my gosh, if my menus don't come up, Object, Path, and this time I'm going to do Simplify. And you can see that I can scroll and adjust the simplicity of it all the way up to its current level of points, which is 1,888, down to as few as I want. But you want to be careful not to go too far because it will change the design. As it gets simpler and simpler, it has to have fewer curves. So you're going to stay more accurate as you keep it up here, and you're going to become less accurate as you move down here. So now that we've simplified that, I can see if there's any other weird areas I want to fix. Now I just spotted this. Let's grab this little stray piece, delete that. I'm going to grab this shape and I'm going to use my smooth tool. And I just want to adjust that. I didn't like that lump. So there's a lot of lumps from where my lines kind of overlap. And sometimes I like them and sometimes I don't want them. So I can kind of play around with that and get that cleaned up. Now let's take a look at how good of a job I've already done of cleaning up. And I have a feeling we're going to find some more errors and I'm going to show you how to fix it. Maybe we're lucky and it all turned out perfect and sort of my manual cleanup was good. I'm going to hit select all again while I'm in outline mode, just double check. And then I'm going to save this. And for some reason, there seems to be some weird new Glowforge error where if I don't exit it from Illustrator, it won't let me open it. So let's actually go to the Glowforge interface. And it's actually very helpful here because it's going to show us if I missed anything pretty easily. So I'm going to go to Upload and I'm going to go find that file, which I believe is on my desktop. And I called it, was it called Mantis? I think it was in Bugs. Let's go to Bugs. And then there should be, where did it go? Who knows where I saved it? So let's go find it and resave it. Okay, so let's go to Open Recent Files. I don't know where I saved you. Grasshopper, and we'll save it to the desktop this time instead. Oh, I guess it's saved in bills instead of bugs. All right, there you go. There's another little error. How you can mess something up. So let's exit it again. Go back to our Glowforge interface. Because I do everything as one cut and I'm lazy and I don't like to edit. This is what happens. So let's scroll down. We see Grasshopper now. I'm going to upload it and then we're going to look and see what shows up. So, okay, this gives us a pretty quick indication of if there's any issues. So what's really nice about the Glowforge interface now is it's going to often identify those stray points for you. So you can see that there's one here and I don't really see any here. So this is actually looking pretty good. I can just move this object and then highlight that stray point and delete it later, but I want to fix it in the original artwork because this is going to be for upload for other people to use, and I want to make sure it's not messed up. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to open that recent file, and I'm going to hunt over here. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to try and find that object. So one way that we can do this is I'm going to click my main object. Let's go back and take it out of outline view. I'm going to double click, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to hit delete. And there's the straight point. So I deleted it. I selected only the main object, copied it and deleted it so I can find this straight point, delete it, and then I'm going to hit Command-Shift-V to just paste that shape back to where it belongs. So that is really helpful. In that sometimes you just got to move your item out of the way. Sometimes it's in the group, and that's why I double clicked until I had only the object I was looking for selected. And you'll see how that comes in handy in a minute. So we didn't see a lot of straight point errors. That should have fixed that one. But now we have to take our outline shape and remove it from the inner lacework of the design. And that's actually not too difficult to do. One way I'm going to do it, and this is probably the preferred method, is I'm going to hit Object, Compound Path, Release. And for a moment, it makes everything look the same. What it did is it ungrouped these from being a solid shape. I'm going to select my outermost shape, and you can see, there it is. It's separate from the other. They just all turned the same color. I'm going to undo that so I don't move it out of alignment. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to change its color to something else. Let's make it green so that you can see it. And now I'm going to grab that, and I'm just going to switch that to outline so I can kind of see what I'm looking at a little better. So you can see that was very, very, very simple to do. If you find when you upload this, you get a million little funny points, you can use the same technique I used here to find those straight points. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's a little inconvenient. It takes you maybe a few minutes, but it can, if you just have straight points everywhere and it's just not working and you can't find them all easily, this is the technique. So now that this is all ungrouped, I'm just going to individually grab every single one. I'm holding the Shift key and I'm going to click, and we'll just do a wing because it's easier to do it section by section. And you can change their colors to let you know which ones you've selected. So let's grab the wing. I'm just clicking and clicking and clicking. And you can see the red outline is showing me what I have selected. I'm going to change the color to green for a second. I'm going to copy it, delete it, highlight the area, and look for any stray points. If I don't see any, Command-Shift-V to repaste in their place. And then I can do the same thing walking through the design. Oh, we have a scroll situation there. So now I'm going to do the body just to double check. And with the previous bug illustrations, I had stray points all over the place. So I had to do this technique of grabbing every inner shape, and it looks like I just accidentally unclicked. So that's why sometimes it's nice to work in sections, but let's do that again. You can see it takes maybe about 5-10 minutes, but if you're going to be selling these files, you need to make sure that you don't have stray points, because just because your laser interface didn't cause a problem doesn't mean someone else's is not going to have a problem. So once I'm happy with those, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, turn those green. Now I know that those are clear, and I'm going to do the same thing down the body. So let's grab the lower body. And with some of my previous ones, y'all, I had so many errors. And we're going to look at another file that I think may still have some errors in it, just so you can see what that looks like. Oh, so if I moved it, I'm going to undo. Oh, and I lost my selection because the stupid Wacom tablet keeps bringing up its menu. I must be clicking something. And as you're doing this, you can also regroup these so that you don't have stuff scooting everywhere. I'll show you how I might do that in a moment. Just hitting undo every time I accidentally drag it, because I'm using my tablet and sometimes that happens. So let's grab those as green, copy, delete, select all to check. Oh, and I found some. Okay, I think we got some stray points going on here. So I can get these menus. I think we see a few here. So let's go to outline view, and that will help us spot them. And it looks like we did have a few hidden ones that did not show up before. So let's grab those. And if you're struggling to see them, I'm going to undo that real quick. If you're struggling to see them and you're like, where are these? This is really hard to spot. Highlight the whole area and give it all a stroke that's really, really bold and increase the stroke weight. And now you're going to be able to generally catch those. And we can turn that off later. So we're just going to grab that one. We're going to double click until we get that one. And we're going to double click until we get that one. You can then take everything and turn off the stroke. So let's go to our magic wand and double click it. We have our stroke color set to 1 and our fill color set to 1. And this means it's going to grab anything that's exactly the same. So in this case, it's going to grab everything that's clear and has the blue stroke at 3 points. Set that back to 1. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to turn our stroke off on these. Sometimes you got to tell it a stroke and then take the stroke off, which is kind of annoying, but all right. Let's tell it to be blue. Then I'm going to turn the stroke off. I'm going to do the same for this. I'm going to turn it to be blue and then turn the stroke off. So we're seeing a couple more points here that have just magically appeared. So you can see in the previous adjustments, these were not really showing up. Probably because they're parts of groups or they're hard to see. So we got that one. Let's drop this back in. I remembered not to copy anything so I wouldn't lose that. And hit Command G to group that section. And now we're going to do the last wing here. So if you have to get into this level of selecting every inner shape, this is if you're definitely having struggle. So if you find when you're cutting it, random circles are being cut out of your design, this is probably what's going on. So let's go to outline view again. All right, and it looks like we have 2 stray nodes here. I kind of remember where they are. So I'm just going to grab them, highlight to find it again. There it is. Kind of looks like there's one there, but oh, that's dirt on my screen. Then I'm going to hit Command Shift V to repaste that in place, Command G to group it, and then I think we're probably good. We're going to go back to preview. So I grouped this, so now it's easier to select it just at one time. Use my eyedropper to grab the same green, and then we should be good. Now, sometimes you can find the stray points. If the stray points are a different color or don't have any color applied, you can use your magic wand to grab a group of objects and pick them up. Oh, and it looks like we have a couple more stray points there that are showing up. So when I selected this green, it's finding other objects that are assigned to be green and it's causing a problem. So let's zoom back in, delete those. It seems like every step of the way, like more of these appear, and I don't really know why that happens, but we want to find as many as we can. There it is. Let's hit Command All again. I saw one pop up here. That Command A of selecting all your shapes can be like a big help in finding those rogue anchor points. Let's go back to outline view. See if there's anything else that I'm not seeing. And these may have started appearing when I started copying and selecting those out. All right. I'm gonna ignore everything over there. And that looks a little bit better. So let's get back to preview. Let's use our magic wand. Let's grab all the green shapes. Looks like somehow this has a different look applied to it and it's not selecting as a group. So let's fix that. I'm gonna go to appearance, turn off. So it has a hidden color layer underneath. This happens sometimes where an object will have a mixed appearance. It's very annoying. I'm just gonna keep trying to turn it off. And then I'm gonna come in here, grab this section, turn its appearance off, and it's probably because it's a group. Let's remove its appearance. We're hitting remove appearance. Let's go into this group, select everything inside of here, and remove its appearance. Now, when we double select out, we should be able to grab all of that. So mixed appearances can cause issues too. I'm not 100% sure why that happens sometimes. Let's just set them all to green now. It looks like it grabbed the outline too, but that's an easy fix. I'm just going to turn the fill off on that. Select all again, double check. I'm going to save this, exit it, and now let's upload to the Glowforge one more time and see if we have any stray points. So you can see it kind of tricked me a little bit. It didn't show me some of those hidden ones, but it usually will show you some of them. I'm going to delete, upload file, re-find this grasshopper that I saved, drop it in, and let's take a look. So a new one has appeared. We have one stray point over here, but everything over here is looking pretty good. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Let's go find this little rogue guy that has appeared in our original file, delete it, and then we should be good to cut. So I'm not seeing it. There it is. Now, one last thing I'm going to show you while we get this last one is that the lasso tool is really nice because it will allow you to select an area, but draw your selection. So sometimes that box is going to grab stuff you don't want it to grab. That's a little trick that you can use. So now I feel pretty good about this. I'm going to set this back to being an outline since it's going to be a cut. I can do the same with all of the green shapes. We can group those together now. It's trying to select this, so I'm going to copy and delete it for a second. Just highlight these and group them. Oh, I saw some strays there. Let's look. There's a couple. Okay. Let's ungroup. I'm going to copy the outline out again. And you can see this can be very tedious work. Cleaning up these stray points, it took me a lot less time to actually draw the design than it does for me to clean it up sometimes. And that can be pretty annoying, but it does happen. Back to outline, grabbing these. All right, that looks pretty good. So those shapes must have been hidden in parts of the outline. And when I selected the outline and copied it and moved it out, all those other ones got left behind. I'm going to save it one more time. I don't see any more stray points. Hopefully we're good now. I'm going to go back in the Glowforge interface and delete this file and re-upload the newly corrected one. And let's see, we should finally be clear of weird points. At this point, you're just going to do a test cut of your design. And if you find any weird circles or chunks are being cut out that should not be cut out, then you can go back to your art and double check again. So always proof your designs before you put these on the market for people. Very important. So I can see that I have the inner part set to engrave, and you could do that. You could cut this shape out of acrylic and engrave this or something else. I want these to cut since it's a paper cut. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to choose cut, and I'm going to grab cardstock recollections, and my settings for that, in case you're interested, are 4:5:65. I'm going to do the same with the outline, and what's nice is you can see the outline is its own step, so it will happen after all the inner pieces are cut, which will help prevent it getting blown out of alignment. So we're going to do that, and then the same thing. This is going to be cut from a different paper I have called Yupo paper, and that's Yupo heavy, so it's 510 full power for that one. So now we can go look at our paper cuts, and I'll do one little sort of, hopefully I have some time, I'm going to cut the video showing what this looks like after it's been paper cut, and you can see some of the final pieces I'm working on. So here is the final result, not the pieces completed, but examples of the paper cuts. So the one we just cut is right here, and you can see there's a little bit of cleanup and that I have to gently sort of knock out some of the inner shapes, because sometimes that, you don't want to burn your paper, so you try to use the least powerful settings you can to get a really nice cut without burning your edges. And then here's what the inner shape looks like, and then you would just place that behind, and I'll usually apply a little bit of spray glue, get those lined up and placed. And here you can see some other examples. So here's the mantis, we've got our lunar moth, and these are scaled down a little bit from what you see in the file, so they'll work even better at the larger size. And then on the backs, I just apply some foam core with double stick super permanent acid-free tape, and then I'm going to be layering these different designs here. And so something unique you could also do that I want to mention is you could take a transparent sort of mylar sheet and then cut this backer shape, this one here, a second time from the clear shape and then cut just the wings out and cut the wings off of the other backer shape, and then you can have these really cool kind of transparent wings if you so chose. So this is kind of the final shot here. It gives you a sense of kind of where I'm heading with these, and then when these works are all finished and framed, I'll put them in the blog and you can kind of see. But you can get some really beautiful detail with the laser, especially with paper. At this scale, I would never attempt to cut this from acrylic. It is going to probably burst into flames. You could possibly get these a little bigger and maybe try some veneer because that's much thinner and doesn't require the same level of power. But just be sure that you are testing and that you're watching these cuts because these were designed specifically for paper, which takes a lot less power than a lot of the thicker materials. And thus it works really well for these very intricate shapes. So hopefully that was helpful and you got a sense of the cleanup and kind of what you need to work on. The last thing I'll show you is I have one more mantis here, and this is one that had some issues. So let's take our white background here. So if you look here, you can see this was where I was troubleshooting earlier when I did the first designs. It cut a little circle right here, and it cut a very odd little circle right there. And that tells me that there were stray points in the design. So that's when I went back through with all the techniques I showed you to figure out exactly where those stray points were that were causing the error because they were not super obvious. And then now we have a perfect cut. So hopefully that's helpful and you enjoy the file if that's what you're looking for. Otherwise, I hope this will help you troubleshoot your own designs to get perfect, intricate cuts.